Welcome to Crushed Husband. Please like the video and subscribe. Let's begin. I always liked early mornings on the porch. Just me, a hoodie that had seen better days, and a chipped mug of coffee. The sun hadn't fully come up yet, and everything was quiet in that eerie, gray kind of way that made you feel like you were standing at the edge of something. I don't know why, but that morning felt different. I couldn't shake this feeling in my chest, like something was about to happen, something I wouldn't be able to stop. Emma had gone on a weekend trip with her friends, some winery tour out in Sonoma Valley. We'd planned it a couple months back and added it to the shared calendar like we always did. She wasn't supposed to be back until Sunday night. It was barely 7. At exactly 6:42 a.m., I heard tires crunching on the driveway gravel. I leaned forward in the porch chair, heart skipping. For a second, I thought it might be a neighbor, maybe someone pulling into the wrong house. But no, it was her. Emma's silver SUV, pulling in way too fast for this hour. I stood up without thinking, my coffee forgotten on the railing. My first instinct was worry. Maybe something happened, an emergency, a friend got sick, a canceled flight. But as she stepped out of the car, I felt my concern start to twist into something else. Her dress was wrinkled, like she'd slept in it. Her shoes were in her hand. She didn't even close the car door at first, just stood there for a second with a weird look on her face, like she wasn't sure if she should go in, and the smell hit me when she walked up the path. Cologne. Not hers, not mine. Some expensive musky scent I didn't recognize. She didn't look at me as she passed by. "Hey," I said, almost out of habit. Emma gave me a weak smile. "Hey, you're up early." I nodded, trying to ignore how she didn't meet my eyes. "Didn't expect you back yet?" "Yeah, one of the girls wasn't feeling great, so we cut it short." She walked past me like nothing was off, like we were just two people having a normal Sunday morning. But I watched her shoulders as she went in. Stiff, like she was trying too hard to act normal. The screen door clicked shut behind her. I just stood there, still in the same spot. The morning air suddenly colder. I didn't say anything. Not right then. But I already knew something wasn't right. I didn't have proof, not yet. But I'd been married to Emma long enough to know the difference between tired and guilty. And I had a feeling that this, whatever this was just the beginning. I stayed out on the porch for a few more minutes, trying to decide if I was just being paranoid. I mean, things had been off between us lately, less laughing, more silence, but I figured that was normal after 10 years. People hit rough patches. Still, that cologne. I stepped inside and found Emma in the kitchen, barefoot, already pulling a carton of eggs from the fridge like it was any other morning. She was moving too fast, like she had somewhere to be, like she couldn't sit still. "You want some breakfast?" she asked, not looking up. "Sure," I said slowly. "So, what happened? Thought you weren't coming back until tonight." She cracked an egg with more force than necessary. "Oh, yeah. So, Lisa started feeling sick. Some kind of stomach bug. We figured it'd be better to head back early before it spread." I watched her move around the kitchen. She wasn't making eye contact, not even once. She just kept talking, her words clipped, a little too polished, like she'd practiced them on the drive over. "Drove all night?" I asked. "Not all night," she said quickly. "We left around 3. Got back just now, obviously." She gave a short, nervous laugh. "It was a long drive. Coffee's barely keeping me upright." I nodded, but didn't say anything. I just leaned against the counter, arms crossed. From this close, the cologne was even stronger. Definitely not hers. Too musky, too masculine. Emma reached up into the cabinet for a mug and said, "I missed you, though. It was good to get away, but I'm glad to be home." That was when she finally glanced at me, and her smile felt forced, like she was trying to sell me something she didn't quite believe in herself. "You could have texted," I said, just so I wouldn't worry. She waved her hand like it was nothing. "Didn't want to wake you up. Besides, we didn't even know for sure until we were already on the road." Then she shifted the topic so fast it almost gave me whiplash. "Oh, I was thinking we could grill tonight. That sound good? I'm dying for something not made in a restaurant." I nodded again, not trusting myself to speak. She was still talking, now about what kind of marinade she wanted to try, something she'd seen on TikTok, but I wasn't really listening. I was watching her hands, her movements, her expression. All of it looked normal, but none of it felt normal. She was too bubbly, too breezy, like someone trying to win an Oscar for pretending everything was fine. And I was the audience, quiet, watching, knowing something wasn't right. She could smile all she wanted, but I was already starting to see through it. Later that day, Emma took a long shower, said she needed to soak the road off. I just nodded and told her I'd be in the living room, but I didn't turn on the TV. I just sat there on the couch, staring at nothing, feeling the weight of her presence in the house even when she wasn't in the room. That damn cologne was still hanging in the air, like it had followed her home, like it was mocking me. Her coat was draped over the back of the couch, not folded, not hung up, just tossed there like she couldn't be bothered. I don't know what made me reach for it. Maybe I was looking for something to explain the gut feeling I hadn't been able to shake all morning. Or maybe I just wanted to prove myself wrong. I pulled it into my lap. It was still a little cool from the morning air. And as I ran my hand through the inside pocket, my fingers hit something, a small rectangle. I pulled it out slowly. A business card. Cream-colored, thick stock. One of those fancy embossed ones that cost more than they should. Robert Miller and Company Realty Group. San Mateo phone number. Email. Clean and professional. I stared at it, trying to remember if Emma had ever mentioned a realtor. A house project. Anything. But nothing came to mind. She didn't work in real estate. None of her friends did either. And I didn't know a single thing about this man. So, why was his card in her coat pocket? I turned it over. Nothing written on the back, just clean and silent and strange. I placed the card back exactly where I found it, smoothed the fabric down, and set the coat back on the couch the way she'd left it. My hands were steady, but my heart wasn't. It was pounding so hard I could feel it in my teeth. From down the hall, I heard the water running, the faint sound of her humming to herself. That made it worse somehow. I leaned back and stared at the ceiling. I didn't have proof, at least not the kind you could hold up and say, "See? Here it is." But I knew something was off. That card wasn't a coincidence, not with the cologne, not with the early return, not with the flimsy story she told without ever meeting my eyes. I didn't storm down the hall. I didn't demand answers. I didn't even speak. I just sat there, quiet, and something inside me cracked, not loud, not obvious. Just a small fracture. A quiet realization that the world I thought I was living in might not be the real one. I didn't know what the truth was yet, but I knew it was close. I could feel it pressing against the walls of our house, waiting to be let in. The next morning felt like any other, except nothing felt normal anymore. Emma came downstairs humming some tune I didn't recognize, wrapped in her plush robe, her hair still damp. She kissed me on the cheek and moved to the kitchen, like we hadn't spent the previous day pretending everything was okay. I sat at the table, nursing a half cup of cold coffee, the weight of that business card still heavy in my mind. "Toast?" she asked, already pulling out the bread. "Or do you want eggs?" "Toast's fine." She smiled and tossed a couple slices into the toaster. "I had the weirdest dream," she said over her shoulder. "We were stuck in a mall during a zombie apocalypse, and I couldn't find the car. You just kept telling me to relax and look for the fountain." I forced a chuckle. "That sounds about right." She kept talking, something about needing to pick up dry cleaning, maybe getting groceries later, and I sat there listening, but not really. Her words felt like background noise, like a soundtrack she'd put on to cover the silence. "I was thinking we could go see that new movie Friday," she added. "The one with the time loop thing. You said you liked the trailer." "Yeah," I said, staring down into my coffee. "You said Lisa got sick, right?" Emma paused for just a beat. Lisa," I repeated. "Your friend. You said she got sick and that's why you came home early." "Oh, right. Yeah." She turned from the stove. "It was actually Melissa. I always mix them up. I meant Melissa. She had this horrible stomach bug. Barely made it out of the hotel." I blinked. "Yesterday you said Lisa." She gave a little laugh, brushing it off. "Did I? Ugh, I was so tired, babe. Barely slept. They were both there anyway, so I probably just got names jumbled." The toast popped. She turned away quickly and started spreading butter like her life depended on it. I just watched her. The way she over-explained, the way she kept her back to me, the way her voice got tight at the edges even when she was smiling. "You could have texted," I said again, quieter this time. She glanced over her shoulder. "Sam, I told you. I didn't want to wake you. You always say you sleep so light." I nodded, not arguing, not yet. She brought the plate over and set it in front of me with a warm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "There," she said. "Fuel for your day." "Thanks," I murmured, even though I wasn't hungry. She took the seat across from me and folded her hands like nothing was wrong, like this was just another breakfast, like she hadn't rewritten her story in real time. But I saw it, in the details, the tiny cracks in her voice, the guilt she was working so hard to hide, and the harder she tried to pretend, the more I knew. There was something she didn't want me to know. It happened 2 days later, Wednesday evening. I was home alone. Emma had gone out to grab wine and catch up with Paige, another one of the women from the trip. I told her sure, have fun, and then waited until the door clicked shut before I finally let myself breathe. I didn't go looking for anything. I swear I didn't. I was just cleaning up, wiping down the kitchen counter, when her phone buzzed where she'd left it, face up. That was the moment everything tilted. The screen lit up with a preview of a message. I didn't even need to unlock it. The image was right there, a photo, her and a man, taken in a dimly lit restaurant, low light, candles on the table, a half-drunk glass of red wine. She was leaning toward him, smiling in that way she used to smile at me. The name attached to the message, Robert Miller. My stomach dropped. I didn't touch the phone again. I didn't need to. The man from the business card, the cologne, the missing text, the messed up names. All of it clicked into place like a puzzle I never wanted to solve. It wasn't a theory anymore. It was real. I sat down at the kitchen table and just stared at nothing. I couldn't even cry. I wasn't shocked. I wasn't angry in the way people get angry in movies. No shouting or broken dishes. What I felt was something duller, heavy, like someone had pulled the floor out from under me, and I was just waiting to hit bottom. That photo, her smile, the way her hand brushed against his sleeve. She didn't look like someone caught in a mistake. She looked content, comfortable, like she'd done this before, like this wasn't new. I stayed there for a long time, maybe an hour, maybe 2. Time didn't mean much in that moment. When I finally got up, I moved through the house like I was underwater. Every photo on the wall felt like a lie. Every throw pillow she picked out, every drawer I opened, all of it had her fingerprints, and now all of it felt wrong. Later, when I heard the garage door open and her car pull in, I didn't move. I just sat there. She walked in, humming, shopping bag in hand, like nothing had happened. She kissed me on the cheek, told me she got us the good stuff this time. I smiled and nodded, even said, thanks. But everything was different now. Because the second I saw that photo, something inside me shifted. This wasn't just suspicion anymore. This was betrayal, confirmed and undeniable. And now I knew exactly who Robert Miller was. The next morning, Emma left early for a yoga class. I waited until I heard the garage door shut before I stepped into action. I wasn't panicked. I wasn't rushed. I was calm. Too calm, probably. Like something inside me had already disconnected. Her car keys were still on the entry table. She'd taken the spare set, the ones without the fob. That was a mistake. I grabbed the keys and stepped into the garage. Emma's car was always spotless, not a wrapper or receipt in sight. She treated it like an extension of herself, clean, composed, in control. Except this time, tucked into the side panel of the driver door, folded neatly in half, was a single sheet of paper, an itinerary. I unfolded it slowly, hands steady. Departure. SFO to Spokane, Washington. Arrival Friday, 3:25 p.m. Hotel, the Lincoln Lodge, room 412. Event, Cascade Real Estate and Networking Conference guest, 2, Robert Miller. I read it again and again. There it was, clear as day. Emma hadn't gone on a winery weekend with the girls. She'd flown to Spokane to attend a real estate conference. With him, they'd stayed in the same room. Room 412, 3 nights, together. The paper even had her name on the reservation, right above Robert's. I sat down in the driver's seat, the leather cold against my back. For a second, I just stared at the paper. The lies weren't subtle anymore. They were printed in 12-point font, organized, formatted, and confirmed. I placed the itinerary back exactly where I found it and walked back inside the house, locking the door behind me. Later that afternoon, I met Wayne. Wayne was a guy I knew through a friend, retired cop, now a private investigator. Quiet, sharp, discreet. I hadn't told him much over the phone, just that I needed confirmation of a suspicion. He didn't ask questions, just nodded and handed me a small folder. Inside, photos. Emma and Robert outside the Lincoln Lodge, walking together, laughing, holding hands. One shot showed him brushing a strand of her hair off her face. There were timestamps, room entry logs from the hotel, and screenshots of messages between them. One message read, "Robert, next time we skip the conference part. Emma, next time we don't come back so soon." I closed the folder slowly and looked up at Wayne. "This all stays with me?" He nodded. "It's yours. I'll delete everything on my end. You want more? I can get it. But honestly, you already have enough." "Yeah," I said quietly. "I know." When I got home, Emma was in the kitchen, barefoot, humming again like nothing had changed. I sat at the table and listened to her ask how my day went. I didn't answer, because I already knew mine was ending, and hers, she didn't know it yet, but hers was about to begin unraveling. That Friday night, I made dinner, not out of obligation. Not to pretend, I just needed the silence of chopping, the rhythm of boiling water, the clink of plates to keep my mind from drifting back to that folder. Emma came home around 6. She walked in carrying a grocery bag and humming some indie song she probably heard at yoga. She kissed me on the head and said, "Smells good." I nodded. "Figured I'd cook tonight." "Everything okay?" she asked, pulling off her shoes. "You seem quiet." "Just tired." We ate at the table, same as always. Chicken piccata, roasted potatoes, side salad. She talked about how her boss was driving her nuts and how the heater at the office still wasn't fixed. I chewed slowly, listening, watching. Every now and then, she'd glance at me like she was waiting for something. Maybe affection, maybe a spark. But I didn't give her anything. Not tonight. When we finished eating, I cleared the plates. Then I sat back down across from her and opened my laptop. "Hey," I said casually, "you mind if we look over our finances for a bit? Just want to check something with the credit card statements." She blinked. "Right now?" "Yeah, won't take long." Emma leaned over, curious. I clicked open a folder labeled House Budget. Inside was another folder. Emma plus Robert, do not delete. I didn't say a word. She saw the name instantly. Her whole body shifted, like she couldn't decide whether to freeze or bolt. I clicked it open. Photos, screenshots, the hotel itinerary, the text messages. I didn't look at her. I just sat back, hands folded, and waited. Emma stared at the screen. Her face went pale. She reached forward, slowly, and closed the laptop lid with one hand. Then she sat still for a second, like maybe if she didn't speak, it wouldn't be real. Finally, she stood up, quietly, no excuses, no tears. She walked out of the kitchen, down the hallway, and into the bedroom. The door clicked shut behind her. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. The silence that filled the house was deeper than anything I'd felt before. Not angry, not loud, just final. That was the thing about truth. You didn't always need to yell it. Sometimes you just had to put it on the table and let it speak for itself. And once it was out there, neither of us could pretend anymore, not even her. Emma was gone the next morning. No suitcase, no dramatic slam of the door. Just gone. I found a folded note on the kitchen counter beside the coffee pot, written on one of the grocery receipts. Her handwriting was rushed. A single sentence. "I'm sorry it turned out this way." That was it. No explanation, no apology, no defense. And I didn't need one. I crumpled it up and tossed it in the trash without reading it again. There was no scene, no final argument, no tears. Just quiet, the kind of quiet that comes after a long storm, when everything's already been broken. I stood in the living room for a long time that morning, just standing there. The walls looked different somehow. The throw pillows she picked out. The candle that still smelled like citrus and linen. All of it belonged to a life that wasn't mine anymore. The only thing that did, the stillness. Later that day, I packed a few bags. Nothing big. Just what I needed. I wasn't going to stay in that house. Not while every corner reminded me of her, of us, of what I thought we were. I signed a short-term lease on a small apartment across town. 1 bedroom, top floor, no frills. The paint was chipped and the neighbors played their music too loud. But for the first time in months, I could breathe. I didn't tell anyone, not my coworkers, not her family, not mine. I didn't feel like explaining the quiet unraveling of a marriage to people who'd only ask because they didn't know what else to say. I bought a coffee maker, a new set of sheets, some frozen meals, the basics. That first night in the apartment, I sat on the floor with a beer in my hand and my back against the wall, staring at the empty space. I wasn't angry, I wasn't sad, I was clear. Emma wasn't coming back, and I didn't want her to. Whatever we were, whatever I'd been clinging to, it was already gone long before she packed her things. She'd made her choice in a hotel room hundreds of miles away. I made mine in a kitchen with a closed laptop. And now I could finally start over. No more checking her calendar. No more wondering who she was texting. No more knots in my stomach when she came home late with some paper-thin excuse. Just me, waking up alone, breathing easier. Taking up space in a life that finally felt like it belonged to me. One step at a time, one box at a time, one morning at a time, and for the first time in a long while, I didn't miss her. A few weeks passed, and the apartment started to feel like home. I got into a rhythm, coffee at 7, a quick run around the neighborhood, work from 9 to 5. Dinner usually involved something frozen and oversalted, but it didn't matter. It was mine, no one else's schedule, no eggshell dance around someone else's mood, just peace. It was the kind of quiet that didn't ache anymore. On weekends, I started running longer, around the lake, through old neighborhoods, places I hadn't seen in years. I'd forgotten how good it felt to move. No goal, no rush. Just the sound of my feet on pavement and the wind in my ears. And then one Saturday, I wandered into a community book fair near the park. It was the kind of thing I would have skipped before. Emma would have called it quaint in that condescending way she had. But I stayed, walked between the tables, flipped through paperbacks and hardcovers with cracked spines. The air smelled like dust and warm coffee. That's where I met Harper. She was behind a table of used mysteries and literary fiction, thumbing through a tattered copy of East of Eden. "That one'll ruin you," I said, nodding at the book. She looked up, raised an eyebrow. "You say that like it's a bad thing." I shrugged. "Depends on what you've got left to ruin." She smiled, the kind that didn't feel like it came with a sales pitch. We talked for a few minutes, about Steinbeck, then coffee, then somehow we were laughing about a shared hatred for scented bookmarks. It wasn't flirty, it wasn't forced, it was just easy. And I hadn't felt that in a long, long time. We grabbed coffee a week later, then another time after that. I never told her about Emma, at least not right away. She never asked too many questions, never pushed. Just listened when I did start to talk, about trust, about being blindsided, about how you could sleep next to someone every night and still never really know them. Harper didn't offer advice, just nodded, like she understood without needing the details. And that was enough. A few days after our third coffee, I got an email from Emma. Subject line: "I'm sorry." The message was short, a few sentences. She said she regretted how it ended, that she was still trying to figure herself out, that she hoped I was doing okay. I didn't reply, not because I was angry, but because I didn't need anything from her anymore. Not clarity, not closure, not forgiveness. She'd made her choices, and now I was making mine. No more looking backward, just forward, with clear eyes, steady feet, and no one else's shadow hanging over my shoulder. I didn't know where things with Harper would go. I didn't need to. What mattered was that for the first time in a long time, I felt like myself again. Not someone's husband, not someone's suspicion, just me, and that was more than enough.